Welcome to Grace. My name is Noah. My name is Eva. George. Welcome to church. Welcome to church.
Well, it's a real blessing having two beautiful kids there. They're cute, but they are also a damper on our social life. I really love having people over. My wife won't let me have people over unless the house is clean, and that's just a bad recipe. But a few weeks ago, we were able to have 3 pastors over for dinner. So we sat around the table, we had a frozen lasagna and some salad, and we shared our stories about how we came to faith, what we believe God's called us to, and we prayed for each other, supported each other, listened to some music, and then basically went home. But one of the pastors brought my child a book, or my children a book. And she knew that they love books, Cat and Hack, Green Eggs and Ham, Matthew's Midnight Adventures, Night is for Darkness. There's lots of good books out there for children. Well, she brought a children's Bible. Now, if you're a PK, you have plenty of children's Bibles, but at the same time, they're all a little bit different, right? Some rhyme, some have scratch and sniff, some have pop-ups, some have different drawings. Some kids love them. And that night we went to bed and we started to read. We read the very beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and he created you and me, man and woman, and he said, it is good. You have dominion over everything. Go name the animals, take care of everything. Well, Noah, I think he wasn't ready to stop there. He always likes to read the second story, because the second story is where he gets to say, hey, Eva, look at you, caused a problem. Now look where we are. So here we are reading about Adam and Eve in the Old Testament. Well, where do you think Adam and Eve went wrong? Where do you think? Do you need to call a friend? 50-50? Final answer? I asked so many people this question, and basically everybody has the same answer because it's the immediate answer which comes to our brain. They didn't listen. They knew they weren't supposed to eat from that fruit, and that's where they went wrong. Well, I want to read one page of this book to you about the Adam and Eve story, and you listen to it and hear what it has to say, because I think it might be a little bit of a different take. God had told Adam to care for the garden and protect it. The moment Adam saw that snake whispering his wicked lies, he should have thrown that evil liar out of Eden. But Adam only watched and listened and didn't even say a word as Eve spoke with the serpent. When Eve passed the fruit to him, he ate it as well. On that terrible day, Adam failed to rule over God's kingdom. Worse still, Adam and Eve had disobeyed God's word and listened to the serpent's lies instead. Now, that is an interesting thought. Yes, it is true that they ate from the tree that they were not supposed to, but perhaps if they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, they would never have been led to that point to begin with. Now, I don't think that Adam and Eve really had the authority to throw out the snake. Perhaps they could have brought the snake to God. But it does raise the question, what are our responsibilities? What has God given you and me to look after? And are we actually doing those things? I believe the quote from Spider-Man, which Peter Parker, Spider-Man's uncle, tells him, Uncle Ben, says to him, with great power comes a great responsibility. Well, Peter Parker knew that. And then he became Spider-Man. And he goes and he fights at this underground UFC thing to make some money. And on the way out, he realized he's being shortchanged. But as he's being shortchanged, they are being robbed. Now, he knows he's Spider-Man. He knows he can stop them. But because of the situation, he says, not my problem, not my responsibility. I'm going to let that one go. Well, the gentleman that robs the place runs out on the street, bumps into Peter Parker's uncle, Uncle Ben, who tries to stop him. And sure enough, Uncle Ben gets murdered in the process. Now, we know that's not a real story, but it does tell us about the responsibilities that we have, and if we don't do them, what could be the result? Well, I shared this on a Thursday morning, and after I shared it, I was thinking about my own responsibility and how each one of us has our own responsibility. Our doorman came down the stairs. Our doorman is really nice. He's a great doorman. He's a comedian. He's written a book. He's written scripts. He's a good guy. But every single time he introduces himself, he says, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm the doorman." And then he lists off his mental health issues. It's almost like a get out of jail free card. So he comes downstairs, and on that day, he just starts listing off all these different things in his life, which in his mind is stopping him from being the best person he could be. And I don't know what happened on that day. Maybe I lost my mind, but I looked at him and I was very frustrated, and I believe in him. I believe that he has more in him than he's giving himself credit for. And so I looked at him, reading the story and reflected on my own life. I looked at him and I said, "Hey, doorman, I know you don't believe this, but I believe that deep down, God has given you all sorts of gifts and all sorts of talents. Do all the things that you've done. And all those things that you list off, which are a hindrance, I believe that God can help you with, and God can overcome them. So maybe we should stop listing them off." The doorman, I don't think he knew what to say. He just said, "Okay." And he went somewhere else. I didn't realize, I thought I was the only one in the place, but there's a gentleman who at the moment doesn't have a place to go, so he stays a little bit longer. And he stood up, he said, "Whoa, Pastor Stephen, that was very conservative of you." He didn't mean conservative in a bad way, like maybe a political way or anything like that. He just meant, hey, you're telling this person that they are in charge of their life and they need to take responsibility. So he thought it was a good thing. Well, that night, didn't it all come back onto Pastor Stephen? Before we open our doors for dinner, a volunteer came to talk to me. And he said, "Hey, I just want you to know that one of the washrooms, the women's washroom, has 2 stalls, but one of them is just like not working. So, perhaps we could look at that." And I'm like, "Well, we're opening now. Why don't you just put a sign on it? We'll take care of it later." He said, "Okay, I'll put a sign on it." And so we did our thing that night. We served people, we prayed for people. We shared the good news to people. And then we cleaned up. And then around 9 o'clock at night, I said, "Hey, wait a second. What about that bathroom stall? There's a program happening on Saturday. I want to make sure that, everything's good. Do I need to call a plumber?" He's like, "Well, let's go and look at the bathroom stall." And I pushed open this door only to see, I don't know. It was a disaster. I mean, I was just about to call a plumber and say, "Hey, you just rip out this toilet and bring me a new toilet. Actually, can you get me a tiler to retile this place?" I don't know how somebody managed to put, paper towels down the toilet, which made it overflow. And then somebody also missed the toilet, so it was everywhere. And I just looked in horror. And I looked at my volunteer. My volunteer looked at me. And just that week, actually, I was in Home Depot. And when I was in Home Depot, I had a list, things we need to buy for the sharing place. One of them was a plunger. We have four washrooms. They're publicly used washrooms, so they're probably used more than most washrooms. I tell my the guests that come that we're a 4.5-star food bank. That means we don't really have a cleaning service. It's volunteer based, and so please clean up after yourself on your way out. Try to help out the volunteers. Wow, when I was in Home Depot, there was a $5 plunger, $10 plunger, a $20 plunger, and a $40 plunger. And I really wrestled with it because I like to be a good steward of my money. I feel like that's a biblical precept. But I also realized I was not going to be the one doing the plunging. So I might as well buy the best one. I might have to explain this to my bookkeeper and the people that do the finances, but I'm not doing it. Somebody else is going to do it. So just that week, I had bought this $40 plunger. And so as I opened the stall and I saw what was going on, I said, okay, bring me the plunger. I sent another volunteer to go get me some gloves. Somebody else brought me a garbage bag, and I got onto a stool. And I sat there and I cleaned this washroom, this toilet that I never wanted to clean or never wanted to see. At the very end, if you walked in here today, you would never know it looks brand new. But the reason I did it was, well, I guess I am supposed to do it, but not only that, it's my responsibility to do it. There are times where, we get to be the keynote speaker. And there are other times that, we really just got to plunge the toilets. But God gives each one of us different responsibilities. The question is, are we embracing those responsibilities? Are we doing those responsibilities? And or are we neglecting them? I'd also like to say that we shouldn't find responsibilities. I don't find them as a burden. I find it as a blessing. I find it a blessing that God, who created the universe, said, you know what? You are good, and I entrust you to do this. And I think just that mentality could allow us to do all sorts of things. At the church, I go and speak on a Sunday, but it's very difficult for me to speak without the sound man. And guess what? The sound man needs the greeter. And the greeter needs the person who puts out the offering plate and counts the offering. And the greeter also needs a Sunday school teacher to teach a Sunday school. Oh, you're welcome to our church. You need your kid to have Sunday school. Here we are. All these things go together, and they go together for the glory of God. But I also think that by doing them, we become the people that we are meant to be. What is your responsibility? Are you doing your responsibility? Does it feel like a burden? Let it go to God. Let God take that burden off your shoulder. Do that responsibility. This is Grace. My name is Stephen, and this is church.